And if it's Thursday, then it's Fishin and Huntin today. And I'm your studio producer, Sid Davis. And today, I have none other than introducing one of the best in the media business. And that would be our host, Mr. Jerry Cripp himself, along with our guest tonight, Mr. Brian Dorsey from Rush Run Wildlife. And with all that being said, howdy guys.
Hey, how are you, Brian? How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. You guys doing well also, hopefully.
Yeah, we're hanging in there. And how about them Reds now? We pulled one out. Let's see. I'm still concerned a little bit about the Cardinals because you never count the Cardinals out, I'm telling you.
You cannot. Nope. They've proven time and time again that you can't do that. So
that's it. So watch the Cardinals. I still, even though San Diego, well, they haven't played yet today, but I still got a feeling I think both wild cards may come out of the West. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And that's a one-and-in game anyway, so, the Reds don't play real well with those one-and-ins. You know what I mean?
No, they don't have a good history for sure, but maybe they're overdue, I guess you could say.
I think you might be hopeful. Hopeful's good, Ryan, though,
It is. If you don't have at least a little hope, it's going to be a long ride usually.
And then one other baseball thing, because I know you're a big baseball fan, I want to ask you a question I've been trying to figure out. How do you take an individual and manage to figure out a way to screw himself out of a $25 million a year deal? Trevor Bauer, can you believe that? I can't believe that.
It is hard to believe, I guess when you're that, you have that big of a name and that powerful and that kind of money, maybe it does go to your head and you think that you're untouchable, but it's, for the rest of us, it's hard to believe. It really is.
Well, it's probably babied his entire life, and, never heard the word no, I'm sure. But this time he's going to hear the word no big time because he's done screwed up his baseball career. I think his baseball career is over. From Cy Young, and there you go, the only Cy Young winner the Cincinnati Reds have ever had, to go from that to this in a matter of 1 year, that's hard to do.
It's a big fall. It absolutely is. And I think you're right. He's in for a long road regardless of what comes out of this down the road. He's going to be viewed very differently regardless.
Yeah, nobody's going to put him on. There's no way I would have him on a team anymore. There's just too many ramifications that can come out of something like that. You can't do that. You screw your whole damn franchise up doing that. So he's done. For all intents and purposes, he's done. Well, real quick before we get started, too, this situation going on in Afghanistan, 13 I think one was Navy corpsmen, and the rest of them, I think, were all Marines lost their life today over there. And that disaster, totally ass backwards the way that's been going on. Say a prayer for these people. I'm telling you, you get to knock on the door that their son or daughter was lost over there, and it was not needed to happen. No question about that. So
sure.
Keep them families in your thoughts and prayers, and Brian, I know you will, as I know Sydney, and hopefully our listeners out there too, because I'm afraid it's going to get worse. But we'll see. We'll hope for the best. Well, here we are. I cannot believe we're on almost the eve of another dove opener. It seems like we just did this a couple weeks ago, but it's been a year. Can you believe it?
It's every year you get a little older and the time flies a little bit more. But it's kind of a it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing because the year's flown by. Where as outdoorsmen, we all look forward to the fall and this starting, but before you can blink, we'll be back to summer.
Well, before you can blink 2 or 3 times, you're one of your little guys will be driving you to work.
Yeah, hopefully not that fast, but it goes quick. That's certain,
Oh, it's amazing how fast. I'm serious. I cannot believe we're rolling into September already. It's absolutely unbelievable. This summer just seems to have flown by this year. Such a fleeting time. I always think, people complain about the heat, and I tell them, look, think February.
Right.
And you won't be complaining so much about the heat, you know?
No, I remember this winter when we had some snowy, cold days there, and every one of us said, I can't wait to see it 80, 90, and here we are thinking the other way. But
there you go. Not me, but
that's Ohio for you. No, I don't mind it hot. You get used to it, and I don't mind it cold. It can be cold, too, and it just comes with the season, so.
Well, I'll tell you what, to me, with hunting, I'm not so much on the fishing side about being real cold fishing, but hunting, I don't care how cold it is. I'm going hunting. You know what I mean?
No, and I tell to a lot of people, you know, if you can brave the element, then there are some really good opportunities out there when it's cold or snowy. There are days you certainly want to be in somewhere warm, but the cold never bothered me, never hurt me, and it was always just another opportunity.
Yeah, some of those real good river hunts can come late in the season when it is about 25, 30 degrees with maybe an inch or two of snow on the ground. That's about a perfect rabbit hunting day, isn't it?
No, absolutely. You can get much better than that, and we've done well the last few years, even in some real cold temperatures with snow. But yeah, that seems about perfect, really. Especially with a little bit of snow, you can't ask for better hunting than that.
Let me ask you this: how do you think this ammo shortage is going to affect our dove hunters? I mean, it's 75 shells. I'm assuming the winter time that's still the same, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's still 75.
And you've got to have your auto, your semi-auto, or your pump gun plugged. You can hold no more than 3 rounds. That's still the same.
Right. Yeah, it's still the same.
Tell me how. New people, because there's no Douglas on the shelves from what I'm hearing down this way. I don't know what you guys are seeing up your way. What do some of these people going to do? Throw rocks at these birds or what? What are you going to do for ammo?
I think you have to be a little more careful when you shoot, honestly. And it's especially now because we're all jazzed up to be out there for the first hunt of the year. And anything to get close, you think you have to, it's in your range, but you're very right. I've looked in 3 or 4 places and found exactly nothing to use, and actually found some online. Somebody had mentioned that a place had some, and I jumped on it. You had to buy a whole case. You couldn't just buy a box, which is fine. They'll get their use down the road, but you had to plan ahead, and it wasn't. Like even 2 years ago where you ran to Walmart and picked up what you want. You really have to plan ahead now, and if you don't, you might be limited to one hunt or even that, and there might not be the next day. So it's a sad state. It really is.
Well, here's a thought, too. I mean, you've got your winners of your draws, not only on your property there at Rush Run, but, wherever the draw hunts may be. Now, I'm willing to bet, especially the newer hunters, some of the newer hunters have probably thought, okay, I've got my spot, now I'll go get my ammo. That's going to be a good idea. You may have some of these spots people don't show up, not because they don't want to, they don't have any ammo.
I would not doubt that, or have very limited, or even crazier, probably all kinds of different size of, of shells and loads, and because they're going to want to be out there regardless, and this is what I've got, so I've got to take it with me, and even on a good year, occasionally you'll bump into somebody that's got some interesting, size shells out there, but you're absolutely right. I think to a small degree there's going to be some effects, whether how long you hunt or how many you get in, or just, you're right, people are going to go and try to get it last minute, and it's not going to be available, and so in this case, planning goes a long way, but we've never been trained to think like that, and it's a whole new world, that's for sure.
No, it's human nature to let them put things off, procrastinate to the last minute anyway, and this time it's going to be a not good thing. And that's a good point you brought up about different rounds out there, people shooting at these birds. You're liable to see somebody out here with some leftover 3.5-inch waterfowl legs.
Anything is on the table at this point. So I've seen a few here and there over the years with 5s and 6s, I think the guys obviously that have been around and done it for a long time have figured out what works best. But in a pinch, I guess at least you're in the field and you have a chance regardless of what you're shooting.
And what are you shooting for your dog? I think you use a 12 gauge?
Yeah, I've got a 12. I usually use, and I've used different ones over the years. Every year there's a newer one or something that says it's a little bit better. Normally it's an 8-shot. I've had 7.5. I've tried steel-plated ones, and even because every year they're faster, they're a little bit longer range, and I've seen the steel-plated ones seem to work pretty good. But even if, the old standby 8-shot lead loads are just as good as anything, and it doesn't matter as long you've got to be the shot. So I don't care what you've got, you still got to be a decent shot out there.
Yeah, it's the key. You're not going to get another shot at these birds. These are not the birds like you and I talked about 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. They've been educated. And I think it's inborn into them as you go from generation of bird to generation of bird, that this loud noise you hear when you're flying through a field is not a good noise for you to hear. You want to get out of their type of birds now. I mean, they don't come back and let you shoot at them again.
No, you hit it right on. You don't get many multiple opportunities on those things. And we were laughing today there at the office about even with the decoy, and a lot of guys bring decoys and all for the better. But I've noticed that very quickly, after a few shots or a few flyovers, that the decoys are actually detrimental. I think they learn that there's something wrong with that going on down there, and if you watch them enough, you'll see some of those birds come over and see that decoy spread and just go the opposite direction. Early on, I think it's fine and it's very useful, but they get very educated in a short amount of time.
And the other good time for decoys, I think, are late in the season when you've got migratory birds around. They're looking for locals, and when you see the 2s, 3s, 5 migratory birds, they'll work your decoys for you. That when you get into the shooting like you're talking about, when that's going, they're going to be really shot at once. You're not going to fool me twice type deal.
Nope.
And if you're shooting at them with decoys over, they remember that, and you're right. They won't go back on that decoy spray again. But I agree with you. I think it's good to use them. I use it for another reason, too. It's for your aiming stakes. Set them at your max range that you want to shoot at. Any birds inside that on a circle, then they're in shooting distance. That's why it's good to use that way.
No, that's a very good point and a very good way of doing it. Absolutely. And
keeps you, say, if you got other hunters too, it keeps you in your own zone, and you're not, shooting out of your area. And there's a lot of pluses using that decoy as an aiming stake, and it works out pretty well that way too. But you got 100 spots at Rush Run, which means you can have as many as 200 hunters if everybody shows up, both open first day and day 2. You take that combo with sunrise to sunset hunting now. We've done away with the tradition of District 5 noon to sunset starts for the first 10 days. And if you have, and right now you said you're seeing lots of birds around right now, which is good to hear. Nice weather. I've not heard the weather for next week. I heard it's supposed to be sort of a rainy week, but we'll see how that goes. But if you get a nice day on opening day and day 2, I don't know, my friend, if you're going to get much out of day 2 if you have a lot of shooting going on day 1 with all day hunting. What do you think?
The rosier side of me wants to say that it will be the same as it has been. But the smarter side agrees wholly with you. I think it's going to be a change, absolutely. And, barring opening day being miserable and not much action going on, to me, it's 2 hunts really into one. You instead of starting at noon and having 1 hunt, now you essentially could break it into a couple. So the pressure is going to be up. There's no question there. So they're gonna see more people in the field. There's gonna be more shots overall. So my hope is that there's enough birds there. There's plenty to go around the first day, and that of course will lead to more the second day. And if a decent weather second day, and they need to feed, so they're going to come in at some point. But it's an unknown. It really is. I know, going way back, as you well know, that this is kind of how it started, and then morphed into the noon, the sunset deal, and it worked well. It really did. So it's a good opportunity because I've talked to a lot of folks at it, that have been drawn, and I've tried to, give some extra help too there. A lot are going to hunt in the morning and hunt in the evening, and there's quite a few that are going to be able to only hunt at one point during the day, whether it's early or later. So it's going to be a learning curve for me, and I think for most of us, not having really seen it in person for a long time. And I'm always hopeful. I'm always optimistic, and once the third hits, I can definitely tell you if it was good, bad, or somewhere in the middle there. But I think from what I'm seeing out there right now, and when we get this close, usually I try to stay out of the fields as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Middle of the day, I try to do my work when they're not in the field feeding. I disked some yesterday, so we had some bare ground. I'll finish mowing probably tomorrow, and then stay away from them and let them feed without any issue or minimal disturbance. And there are good numbers. There really are right now, and that's great. And that gives me hope that it can be a good 2 or even 3 or even great weekend. But we'll see. We'll see come Wednesday for sure.
Well, and you got that other factor, but it's a good point to bring up. They've got to feed somewhere, and to be very honest with you, thank God there's no crop sock, because if you'd have had waste grain fields now, we'd be in trouble. I think I really do, but we don't have that. So yeah, that's a plus.
No, we don't. Absolutely, and you're right. I've seen it when we've had beautiful fields and the neighbor cut stuff and we're left with nothing. So yep. I didn't really want to see the heavier rain that we had today, just because I kind of like to see it steady, leading up to it. I don't think it's going to really affect them, but I think with it raining pretty hard there when I left work, that'll really put any kind of damper on anything going forward if somebody was thinking about really, cutting or chopping. And from what I saw, the forecast is scattered rain off and on for the next week. So that'll keep farmers out of the field, and that's a good thing for us, 100%.
Absolutely, I agree with that for sure. And too, I think a lot of the tradition of noon to sunset, that laying off in the morning was for a couple of reasons. My thought was to let the birds not only do a little rest, but get a little confused. And what I mean by that, okay, we were shot at yesterday. There's nothing going on this morning. It's right over with type of deal,
Right? Oh, sure.
And the other thing is, I'm probably giving these birds too much credit with that thing, but that's okay. Bird whisperer, Brian.
Right.
But anyway, the other thought was on it, and maybe not so much so for the simple reason we only did it for 10 days, was to maybe get any migratory birds that were around to filter in with the locals. Now, I don't put much in that for that morning layoff for the first 10 days because we don't see any migratory doves around here until, really, to be honest with you, that split. I don't know if you've ever hunted doves in that split, but there's doves around then, and those are mostly migratory doves. So that factor was not that much today.
No, and even unless you get a really big weather change, a cold front that comes through and does push some, southward, I don't think it has much an effect, and you're right. If you're going to see those, it's usually a little bit later in the season where they're coming, and they'll find the food as they move southward. But the noon was exactly like you said. It was more to give them rest from the night before, from all the action, to let them calm down, to come in and feed early, and then go back to doing what they do and loafing, all through the early part of the day until the next wave showed up. And the dynamic will certainly change with the first wave in the morning and in the evening. If a lot of guys do well early and they're done. There might be some open spots in the evening, and maybe they will get a chance to settle back to a degree and get the feed and go back to a little more normal pattern. But it really does depend on how it goes, I think, first thing in the morning.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think you're going to have the shock effect because your vocals and these birds, I think they live a little longer than what they say the average dove lives. They say they don't even live barely over a year. But I don't think if you've got a good source of food, I think a dove can live a lot longer than a year. I really do. And they'll come back to the same fields that they showed in before. And
right.
if you get that morning hunt, shoot, they're not used to that if they've been around Bush Run for last season. And there could be a big take of birds. That was a good point you brought up about you might have people limited by noon and done and out and a new wave or open spots for other guys in the afternoon. But that's a great point because again, that's the shock factor. That's where what is going on here. They're used to being shot at in the morning for how many years now? 15, 20?
It's been a while, yeah, right.
It should be an exciting, that's something to really, really watch opening day, is watch that morning shoot and see what's going on as far as the amount of bag totals that you get, total bags, and all the shooting going on. And that'll tell you the shock factor's in play because there's no clue.
Yeah, I'll be a keen observer there early in the morning until the first few hours tick off to here, and I stay out of the fields. Of course, the officers, if they need to check people, will do their thing. But I'll certainly be around the parking lot getting the rough count of how many vehicles, and I've been around long enough to know when it's good. When it's really good and there's that many shots, or when it's the other end, when it's rough hunting. So I'll be able to tell you within an hour how things are going. And I really do suspect the morning's going to be very good, and it's going to catch everything by surprise. And if you're patient and a good shot, I think a lot of guys are going to do very, very well.
And then with that said, I think day two of the morning could be very, very not good for the simple reason the shock effect has taken place day one. It's worn off, which will make day two evening hunt probably very good because they will recover from the morning in the morning of the second day. So that means the late day shoot on day two should be very, very, or could be very, very good.
No, you said it about as well as I could. That's my guess, honestly, too. I think that the second afternoon is going to be better than the second morning, just because of what you said. It's going to take a little bit for them to adjust what happened the whole previous day, and it may take a few hours. And those later hunts might be a ticket where they're coming back in and had some time to rest a little bit. So it's always fingers crossed for the weather.
Oh, sure. The weather is a big card. There's no question about that. Weather is so critical with fishing and hunting and what we do with it and how it affects those trips. That's probably the ace card in the deck as far as what you're doing on these hunts, for sure. First day, I don't think the weather is going to play that big of a factor for the simple. And you remember a couple of years ago when those birds were moving good, but that day we had that rain.
Oh, yeah.
But that was opening day, wasn't it?
That was opening day, and still the best that I've seen it anyway. And in the years that I've been around it, they really had nowhere to go with this heavy rain and the hurricane south, and it went from what I thought was going to be a complete bust to some of the best shooting you could ever expect in a field.
That's like that year we had Hurricane Ike, and we had all those pintails that were blown off of their course and wound up down at Caesars Creek. There was more pintail there than ever. It's unbelievable.
It is. It's sad that it takes an act of nature of that size to give you that bounty once in a while, but you better take advantage when it happens.
Okay, my friend, take a little ahead now, because you're my dove guy. You're my Guru dove guy for sure. You're my new Al Gerhardt. Now, that's a compliment.
I saw Al yesterday. Al was going to be out, I believe, the second day. So Al still is always around, and I don't know that there's anybody, that knows it better than he does.
Is he going to hunt the second day, you said?
He is one of we had one of the guys, Sean, that works up at Mercer with me, drew a permit for the second day, and his kids are in school, and he wasn't going to get to come down. So he graciously handed it off to Al, and Al was going to hunt the second day there. And I think he's behind in one of the fields there around the big main parking lot. So it's good. He's got a huge history there, and has always been a champion, and always will be. And I'm always happy to see those guys get in the field and have a chance. So they'll do some PF hunts. I think the 4th on that Saturday themselves, but it's always nice to see them out and to get a good opportunity.
Well, I'm going to get over there both of those afternoons. Maybe I'll see him and say hi, and, maybe I'll get lucky and somebody will go home and get out there and have a shot. You never know.
Yeah, you never know, exactly.
Now, let me ask you this. Peek a little further ahead in your crystal ball. Shake it up a little bit. You'll do snow flurries that are going in that little crystal ball. Where do you think you're going to be from day 3 till, saying we got good weather, day 3 to day 7? What do you think? No crop
I would say, right. No, there's going to be opportunity. There's always going to be some leftovers, regardless. So it's always at that point. Really, it's on. To me, it's the smarter guy that's had some, that has hunted them before, and then knows that, hey, I need to find maybe a tree that they're coming to, or just. And I'm amazed by those things, how they use the terrain, the dips in the fields, the large tree that they fly on one side or another. So it'll be tough. And I think I'd say once every 5 years you can get 1 year there that the hunting's really good for a few weeks, and and you can take a decent number for a lot of days. So the opportunity's going to be there if you know how to approach it. You're going to get some shooting. It's going to be a lot less, as everyone would expect in the first 2 days, and they're going to be a little smarter and a little hardier. But there's certainly going to be people out that do well, and with the weekend coming up, I'm sure there'll be good crowds, with a Friday and especially Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be good crowds out, trying to take advantage of it. And to some degree, that's good, because if they're out in the fields, they'll keep what is out there moving around and opportunity out. But it's going to be difficult. There's no doubt. Unless we get an enormous influx here between then and now. I'm seeing what I think is a little above normal at numbers right now, which is really good. But I think it's going to take a whole lot more to come through all of a sudden to make it great hunting. But I hope it is. I think we all, the guys that do this, all over the state, and it's really not many that plant these many fields, and it's just a few of us, but we want to see the hunting as good as it can be for as long as it can be. And in some years that's true, and others it's a 1.5 day extravaganza, and that's about it, But I think it'll be tough. So.
Well, and too, I think you may have some people that are going to be hunting 5 days, because you got Wednesday and Thursday. If they get draw one of those two, they might say, "What the heck? I might make a 5 day dove hunt out of this field." So you may have a very busy, again, weather permitting, but you may have a very busy Friday and Saturday into Sunday for sure. So we'll see how that goes. But, it looks like, I look for the overview for the state of Ohio. I did my little piece for Cox Newspapers. I put in there the overlook for the state. Look for about the same thing that we can normally expect, this time of year for the entire state. For the simple reason you're not going to see any migrating birds, I don't think. You don't think you're seeing good numbers. You haven't seen any migrating birds, you don't think in that? I wouldn't think it. Do you think?
No, I don't. I didn't. And even when we talked there, last week or so, I was in some way, I want to say I was a little afraid, because I've been seeing a good number of them for a month and a half now, And there was a lot of wheat around us that was, farm wheat that was cut down, and that certainly, drew what was around in and kept them around. And we were fearful that we were going to wake up one day and there's nothing, but it hasn't been true, and it's not going to be. I'm confident they're out there, but I think that what we've had has been around for the most part, and they're not really coming through. They have no reason to be migrating at this point. Nothing's been no severe weather north or anything crazy to really drive them down. So I think more and more, and maybe others would disagree, but it seems over the last few years that we've had a lot more that have stayed local year round. And really, and by the time that the first few hunts are over in early September, most guys move on from it fairly quick. They're thinking, end of the month means archery, and so dove is a short bonanza for most folks, and you still have a lot of them are around. They're spread thin here and there, and for good reason. They're finding other food sources. But I'm not a firm believer that they're really large numbers are traveling back and forth. I think we get a lot more localized ones that stay that way year round than we give credit for.
I think that's a good point. You're probably right with that for sure. And I'm wondering too now, how about do you think they may very well had a real good nesting season too, and that'll give you a lot of birds too if there's a good nesting season.
No, absolutely, and in a lot of ways, I'm a nerd. I love to see what each dove has. When I shoot one, I want to see what it's eating. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed, and maybe it's just my poor shooting, but in most years, what I wind up shooting are a large percentage are younger ones. So they do very well, and I think it was a pretty good year. And if you really watch when you see them out on the power lines or in the field, there's a lot more younger ones than older ones, and I thought it was just me, but I've compared, with a lot of folks around, and everybody shoots a lot more younger birds than the adults, so it tells me that they're having a lot of success, which is great. That's, whatever we want to see success in anything, out there, but there should be a lot of young ones, and that's a good sign.
Absolutely. Maybe that's part of the commercial. We see those like dove reporters sitting up there talking on the lines, and they'll fly down there, and we see a bunch of feathers after that,
Right. Oh, yeah.
You gotta have power lines and phone lines to have doves in the fields. I tell you, they love sitting on them lines, don't they?
No, I've always joked that you could have an empty field and put a gravel lane down the middle of the field and a line, and you would probably shoot just as many some years, honestly. And if you pull into a parking lot there, a gravel lot, you might see 50 or 60 right now, just getting down in there and getting grit and stuff, but they're ever evolving, just like we all are. They learn like we do and adapt, and that's our job to kind of adapt with it and find the right way to make it work best.
Well, I kind of expect, just like you mentioned there, that power line down a gravel road, that gravel entrance to an old abandoned house, took the power lines out, tore the house down, and never saw another damn dove ever in that field. Ever.
There you go. Absolutely. And I pulled in the parking lot. It was, say, 2, maybe 3 years ago. And hunted one of the fields there, and it was later in the day, and was headed out and walked to the parking lot there, and there was 30 of them in the parking lot, Well, no wonder nobody's shooting them in the field. They're out here in the parking lot. You laugh, but, there's something to it. There really is. And even disking a little, a pass or two through the fields. I did 2 passes in each field last night before I went home, just to give them some, some dirt and some grit out there. And I was amazed this morning. I pulled into one field just to take a quick peek, and in that one little bit of field that I could see, there was 3 or 4 dozen right there in what I just did last night, and every little bit can help when it comes to drawing them in and making them feel that those fields are where they have to be. So
Absolutely. That sounds like with you with all the doves one year. I was up in Woodland and love that place up there, by the way. And it was during deer archery because I think it was teal was going on. Once in a while you can catch a teal in there if you pick it at the right time. If that marsh is got a little water in it, if that marsh got a little water in it, that can be a pretty nice little spot for some teal. And here, and deer walking through the parking lot up there. Archery season's on. They're strolling through the lot.
You never know when or what you're going to see. And we had a gentleman stop in yesterday, and he said he had hunted some deer years ago, but it was a while, and he was curious about the population. And it's easy for me to say because I'm out there 5 days a week, so I have a pretty good handle on roughly what's out there and what isn't. But there are a lot of times, especially when early season, when it's not getting hunted hard, or late when it dies off. The middle of the day, you see things out moving around, and deer, turkeys. They're used to the vehicles, the tractors, the UTVs. It really doesn't faze them to a degree, And I've been blown away by the number of turkeys I've seen in these dove fields, and they're not bothered by me in a tractor. They'll move off when I do my work, and 2 seconds later, they're right back to it, And But yeah, it's if you catch it right and things are quiet, you never know what might walk out in front of you.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's hard to do. I've seen deer many a time I've been over there, just watching those edges because, as you get to sunset, then they start coming out, they'll work the edges, and, just watching nature and just what goes on. It's quiet, no phone calls. It's just nothing better than being out, sitting down on a stool with on a dove hunt, or just a good time to be outside and enjoying those type of things. That's for sure. Heck of a lot better than watching TV. That's for sure. Let's run through your setups real quick before we let you go. You got to rest up to get ready for getting ready for the dove season. But anyway, all 5 fields open at Rush Run. First time in a long time, isn't it, for all 5?
We did last year. We had 5. I try to rotate them through as much as I can, and that was the field at Woodland where that came into play for a couple years, trying to rest fields, and honestly, we've never had the best soil there, and so we make modifications, cover crops, all sorts of stuff. But with weather, the last 2 years we've had 5 fields at Rush Run, and Woodland hasn't really turned into much, and that'll change again. Hopefully next year, who knows? But all 5 fields are open and ready for season.
And that one of those fields is your field over at Woodland. That first year you did Woodland, Brian, did you not have a pretty good hunt over there?
We did. It wasn't. We had decent numbers, and it was kind of a guess. We set the field up thinking it was in a good spot, and we've got a lot of open fields there, but some of them just don't make sense how they're oriented. So I thought it was a pretty good hunt for sure, and the field is a little bit smaller than some of the ones at Rush Run, so it's a little bit cramped on the ends. But overall, it wasn't a bad hunt at all, and it's in a different. It's close enough, but it's still a whole separate group that are using that area. So. It was kind of fascinating, and I've worked on a second one there. So we've got essentially 2 fields, and they're pretty much back to back, or within the same shouting distance there. But just to keep things fresh and to keep good soil, and when you've got fresh fields, and everything grows so much better.
Good point. And are those draw fields up there too? They are, aren't they?
No, the field I worked it all. Actually, I planted wheat in it in the winter there. Hopeful that we would get it planted, and I did the main work leading up to planting. I disked and did all that, and had it that sort of ready to go. And then when it decided to rain a lot, it rained a whole lot on us, and it never really turned out to much. And that's what it sort of happened last year. And thankfully, with 5 fields at Rush Run, I've got one to fall back on and utilize. So there's not much up there. There's some ragweed at Woodland, and just short field with ragweed in it. But I have hope next year that we'll get it planted and go right back to to having a good field, and it sits way up on the hill there. It really is a nice location, honestly. So
you never run across any poison sumac out there on your cuttings, have you?
Yeah, we've got some sumac, nothing really in the poison variety.
Okay.
We battle invasives a ton. My goodness, everywhere it does. And we get some Atlantis tree of heaven here and there, and and we take care of that pretty quick. But the honeysuckle and the autumn olive are a never-ending battle, for us down this way. I'm from far eastern Ohio, and we really didn't have that stuff out there, but. And even there, it's starting to creep in spots. But luckily, I try to keep a pretty close eye on anything that's too exotic and take care of it pretty quick. But I've been fortunate, I really have.
Well, good for you, because I've heard some bad stories about that poison sumac. So be careful with that. If you see any of that, stay away from it. It's the best thing to do, or eradicate it safely. That might be a good thing to do too.
There's a never-ending list. Hemlock's always a tough one there. You get that. It gets tall in the spring and very, and really can make you break out. Even it's a rough one. Pardon?
You're not good for some people to even get near it.
No, it's tolerance. There are folks that rub up against it and get bad rash, and others I'm sure could probably roll in it and have no effect. But,
there you go.
But it's always strong, and there's parsnip is sort of the same. It's midsummer, and it'll give you rash, and some people get shortness of breath. So there's a never-ending battle, and somebody said, "Hey, that's just job security for you." So I'd rather have job security with something else than fighting that. It's the territory.
There you go. What about now? And Woodland Trail is part of the draw, because that's you consider that part of Rush Hunt, so you need to be drawn down at Woodland, correct?
No, everything is withdrawn at Rush Run. So
very good.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some squirrel hunters at Woodland, and without a real field there, other than just some ragweed growing out in the field. Everybody that was drawn will be at Rush Run. So
perfect. Now we got to run over to Dark County. How you thinking that's setting up? People going to see some birds in there, and that again is not a draw field. So what do you think?
No, I spent Tuesday and Wednesday up there. We not only on the fields, but we also mow around all the fields so people can walk in, through the fall fairly quiet without high grass and high weeds. So I spent a couple of days up there, and we planted, the typical. We've never really done weed up there, but that's going to change actually this fall. We've got a co-op farmer who has a contract, and he is going to start planting wheat for us for doves in the fall. But we've got sunflower and a lot of millet up there. We planted extra millet, and it's actually at the perfect state, very brown and brittle and falling off. So I saw a pretty fair amount of birds the last few days up there, and with all that seed on the ground, I suspect it should be pretty good now. We with it mowed down, it's given them almost a week to get in there and really get at it. So it's usually pretty decent hunting. Some years are better than others, like anywhere, but I think it's going to be pretty decent. So and as far as I know, and especially coming and going that way, I didn't see any crops off up there either, and so I'm pretty satisfied that that's not going to be the case, and they're gonna have food there to eat.
Perfect. What about Raleigh? What do you think down that way? That's a pretty popular spot too, isn't it?
It is. It's always a popular spot, and that field was usually, that's honestly, of all the fields that I deal with, it usually is the best. That grows the best. That I have to do the least with, and I had a decent crop for a while, and then the deer really had at it this year. It's tough to keep them out, and so it's a little weedier than I liked. I mowed it a couple weeks ago just to try to knock it down and to let some of it die back. I stopped in today actually and watched, and it was the heat of the day, but I did see some flying around and a few coming in and moving around. So it's not going to be super great as it was in some years, but there's going to be opportunity there for sure. And and hopefully maybe there's more than I even give credit for.
Well, that's another sleeper, I think, too, down there, that maybe as the season goes on a little bit, he seems to produce a few birds once in a while, too. So that's one to watch, I think, for sure. Always,
it is.
It's getting more popular, too, with the people, I think, that come up from Hamilton. They do their once-a-year annual dove hunt there, don't they?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of, some, I don't want to say southern, but more Hamilton, Middletown, and even some Cincinnati folks that come up that way. It's a little bit shorter of a drive, and every time I've been down there in season, it's always very, very busy place. And I think you're right. A little bit after a few days go by, a little bit later, it seems to still have a few. There's really there's some ag down that way, but you start to get a little more wooded, and it's sort of unique in its own right down that way. So I think that helps. But it's a small wildlife area, but that's the one place that I can go without question and see something every time. When we walked in today, there was 7 or 8 turkeys that I could see of. Every one of them was a tom, out, and they're at the edge of the dove field. And if it's not that, it's deer, and there's good hunting all surrounding it private wise. But for a small place, there's always something down there.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat little spot. It really is. Don't forget, folks, hip number, 1-800-WILDLIFE. You can get your little question there that you need to do. No cost for it, but you must have your hip. You're hunting a migratory bird, but you don't need a duck stamp to hunt. It's a migratory bird, but no stamps required. But you do have to have a hip number. Make sure you get that done. Make sure you've got your license to put your hip number on. You can't get your hip number until you get your license. Once you get it, call that 800 number, put your hip number right on your license. You're good to go for dove hunting. Overall, sounds like, we might have, we're going to have a good opening day. There's no question about that. We always do.
Yeah.
But this is going to be, Brian, like we talked, very interesting season to watch at Rush Run and the other District 5 draw fields, too, because it was all noon to sunset on the other fields, too, for District 5. That's what made us so unique and made us what we were for dove hunting. But it'll be interesting to watch these first 2 days. Let's plan on getting you back, my friend. Let's get you back on the 9th. That'll be a week after opening day number 2. And we'll see how that first period went. I think that'd be a good time to get a overview of how the season is going and how it went the first few days. And I get over there. I hope to look you up and visit. Maybe even Michael might get lucky. You never know. And some of your other guys. And heck, we might even see Big Jim Wagner over there. You never know.
Yeah, I still see Jim around quite a bit. Absolutely, and he's another one like Al that it's always nice to bump into and get him a chance. But I spoke to Michael here actually leaving work, and he will be making the rounds, no question about it.
Well, we might find Big Jim out there in the lot selling shells. You never know.
Hey, he'd probably make a good penny off of it too.
Ryan, it's always fun having you, my friend. Look forward as we progress through all the seasons. Getting you on, this is our busy time with you, getting through all the seasons with us, and we enjoy hearing you, and couldn't do it without you, bud.
Oh, I enjoy coming on and talking with you as always, so I look forward to a couple weeks down the road, and then even after that, we'll be in pheasant season stuff.
Oh, my God, we'll be into that, into deer, and you name it, we're rocking and rolling, that's for sure. But thank you, sir. Safe travels to you, because I know you're back and forth to work from home, so safe travels, and look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday and Thursday, but maybe even weekend. Never know.
Absolutely.
Take care.
You have it. Yeah, you do the same. I'll catch you soon. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. There you go,
Yeah.
Brian Dorsey, manager of really a nice spot, Rush Run. I know lots of people in Southwest Ohio, and other areas too, other than Southwest Ohio, are very familiar with Rush Run. And we get you our dove preview as we do every year for you. We'll see. It'll be an interesting start real quick, that's for sure. Real quick, before we get ready to get John Strawsburg in here with us. Want to mention federal premium. If you're looking for ammo, keep looking. That's all I can tell you. I hope you can find some ammo. If I knew somewhere where you could get it, I would direct you that way. Believe me, I would. But Brian had mentioned he found some loads there by a case, couldn't buy just a box. But he found some online. He did not mention where that was, but you can check online. Just Google in 20 gauge, 12 gauge double-loads and see what comes back for this area. That may help you that way. But it's going to be a challenge, and it's not going to be much different as we go through our other seasons. So good luck on finding your ammo. When you find, look for federal premium. You're not going to get any better, be it for dove season, pheasant season, waterfowl season. They make quality ammo, no question about that. Shoot often, shoot lots, and make it federal premium when you do. Quick break. We'll have John Strawsburg on their side talking about DU Dayton right after this.
I can hear destiny calling out my name. Dreaming and dreams both offering, but both offering change. Surrender offers rest, but I die for peace. Don't need your protection, don't need no shield. Now watch me bleed. Now watch me bleed. Now watch me bleed. Now watch me bleed. Winds of life are blowing. It brings down like rain, but I will roar like thunder. And now it's storm like hail. A rise and fall, proclaiming. Both are virgin, but eyes are full of lightning. Embrace the pain. Embrace the pain. Embrace the pain. Now watch me feed. Now watch me feed. Now watch me feed. Now watch me feed. Not an option. I will not just survive. Freedom is near. I choose to fly. I will live full force, never on my knees. I will smash the door if I can't find the keys. I will not back down. I will not yield. Just like we once. I need no shield. I'm not the same. I am not the same.
I have the luxury of introducing Mr. Ducks Unlimited himself, Dayton Chapter, John Strawsburg. And back to you guys.
John, how are you, sir?
Jerry, I'm doing well. It was nice. We got a little rain this evening and a little cooler weather for a change. I'm doing pretty good.
We probably took you away from packing for that tremendous fly fishing trip you're coming up with for that Alaska trip. Neat trip coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I've been there one time before, and it's just a spectacular place because of the place. I mean, the fishing obviously is great, but to be out there with bears and eagles and moose and wolves and all of that, and the water is just, it's kind of a lifelong dream. I would encourage anybody to try to pull it off because it's worth it.
John, real quick, I know you're an avid fly fisherman, and it's a neat way to fish. I love a little bit of fly fishing myself. But are you seeing more interest in fly fishing?
You know, I think that I am. One of the great advantages of fly fishing is that you can travel pretty light, which means you can walk long distances without carrying a whole heck of a lot of tackle with you. so you can cover streams and lakes and things like that. And I think the TV shows that have been on more recently that show a lot of fly fishing are encouraging people to try it. I took a young man fly fishing this past weekend who has fished all of his life. He's a heck of a fisherman, mostly bass, bluegill, catfish, and things. Took him fly fishing for the first time, and I think he's hooked. He really, really enjoyed it. You can just, it's just a lot easier. Once you learn the cast, it's just a lot easier, frankly. So,
well, and the thing is, too, it's a good way to get people introduced to the sport of fishing that have never fished, because with a fly rod this time of year and a handful of poppers, and you don't have to match the hatch, but you get these little things, these little dry flies, and you'll have a hit with something about every time you throw it out there, won't you?
Yeah, you can. You get in the right place, and the other thing that's fun about fly fishing is it's part hunting. You go looking for a place to throw that fly next to a rock or where there's a seam in the current or a log or something like that. So you're kind of actively involved as opposed to sitting there watching a bobber waiting for something to happen. You're making it happen.
That's it. It's a heck of a lot better than watching the bobber and drinking a beer. Although a beer once in a while is not bad, that's a heck of a lot better way to fish, because that's a good point. You are hunting, no question about that. Well, my friend, every week we're getting closer. Your event comes up the 14th at the Mandalay right there in Moraine, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, for a lot of people too. Doors open at 5:30. Tell everybody what they're going to find when they get there.
Well, when you first get there, we'll have a free beer for you. It'll get you through the check-in quickly. You'll get a number that you can use to bid on prizes all night, buy things. And then you can walk around and look at all the display of all of the different raffle prizes and drawing prizes that we've got there. Then we're going to have, we have great appetizers. We're going to have shrimp, wrapped in bacon. We're going to have smoked mushrooms, sausage, and then a full banquet that includes a full roast pig, a whole roast pig, full roast turkey, done by the McConnells there at Mandalay, who are just famous for their smoking, and finish it off with these desserts that are pies and cakes and things that are just fabulous. So you really get a good feed, and then the night will be punctuated the whole way through with different drawings, different raffles and things to keep everything moving. It's really a fun night. It really is. We'll have probably somewhere north of 250 people. Jerry, our attendance registration right now is running a little bit ahead of where we've been in the past few years, even before the COVID stuff hit. And so we're real pleased with that. And so I think we're going to have a really, really good banquet this year.
Well, it's your 50th, too. Tell people, too, that this is sort of last year would have been the 50th, so can you call it 50-51? I guess you could. I mean, it wasn't your fault. You missed your 50 years, so it's 50-51.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's both the 50th banquet, and because we missed last year, it's the 50th year also. It was 1971. Normally, this would be the 51st banquet, I would say. Since we missed last year, it's the 50th banquet, so it's a 50-50. It's pretty interesting. Pretty kind of a... We hated missing last year, but it's kind of neat that it worked out that way this year.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been to a few conservation banquets, and like I put the Cox Decker, by the way, anybody reads that, that'll be a piece in there this Sunday the 29th about the TU Dayton banquet. But like I said, they're well done, excellent, no question about that. You guys know how to put on an outdoor banquet, that's for sure. Now, you've got the DU gun of the year, but you've got that 5-gun raffle, too, and that's a limited number of tickets that are sold for that, so people got a pretty good shot of getting a winner there, don't they?
That's probably been our most popular drawing every year. We only sell 300 tickets. We give away 5 very top-line guns, so your chance is 1 in 60, and which are great chances for guns of this kind of quality. We have shotguns. We have an AR-15. We've got a Ruger American Ranch, which is a really nice ranch rifle. A couple of shotguns and a 1911, which I always like to see a 1911 in the mix. So really good quality guns. I think we have already sold about half of the tickets for that.
Oh, wow.
So I would say when people come in the door, one of the first things they ought to look for is the 5-gun ticket sales, ladies, and grab one or 2 or 5.
Or whatever you can afford.
Yep.
May, we hope, that's for sure. And now you've got again, and this has been for a number of years, if you guys have this outstanding retriever pup that you get from Gunsmoke Kennels. Tell listeners a little bit about that pup.
Well, you're right, Jerry. We've worked with Gunsmoke Kennels now for probably close to 10 years. They are a breeder up near Laura, Ohio, of English line Labrador retrievers. These labs are big, stocky, very, very intelligent, very, very calm. They're bred specifically for hunting. They're not show dogs, although they could probably be great show dogs. They're bred specifically for their intelligence and their demeanor and their trainability. Every one that we've given away in the past has been a real hit, and they make great family dogs as well as hunting dogs. This year we've got one that is already a started puppy, male puppy, black lab puppy, that has been started in terms of obeying commands, also house training and things like that. So it's really a pretty special puppy this year. I think it's going to be really popular.
You know, I always hear a question about that. And I know the girls have them more out by the time they're done carrying those little guys or girls around the floor, that's for sure. But great kennel as far as for hunting labs. There's no question about that. And also, too, you've got an open cash bar. We let everybody know about that. That's open throughout the event. Your live auctioneer is back again. It's been the same auctioneer that you had. You've done well with him, and he probably enjoys coming and wouldn't know what to do if he didn't come, would he?
I tell you what, they do a great job. They've done it for years, too, and he tells me he enjoys it every year. I think he really does. But I will tell you that the guests there at the banquet really enjoy the routine that they go through. They really put on a show.
Yeah, it's well done, John. And keep in mind now, they couldn't do it without you, my friend. No question about that. Great MC for this. And you do an outstanding job with it, that's for sure. Tell everybody, we got to mention Andy with pre-registered. Give his number and contact info as far as people can get pre-registered.
Yeah, Andy Knowles is our ticket chairman, and you can get there a couple of different ways to pre-register for tickets, which I would recommend. You can certainly walk in, and we get a lot of walk-ins, but it'll save you time at the door if you go ahead and pre-register. His name is Andy Knowles. His phone number is 937-581-0014, or you can email DaytonDU@gmail.com. And Andy is really good at this, and he'll get right back with you.
Very good. And again, you should pre-register if you can, but you can pay at the door, and also your DU membership is included in your ticket, so keep that in mind too. It's always a good thing to have and to mention to people that that's included in your ticket. And I know you're looking forward to it. You're going to be back right about the same day that the event takes place. We're going to be back in here with someone, and let me know who. On the 9th of September, we'll be out next Thursday on these dove hunts, but back on the 9th of September, and that'll be our final prep for the event on the 14th. And never know, John, you might get up to, we'll make our prediction there on the 9th, but you might get up over that 280, 290 number. What do you think? Possible?
It definitely looks like it's possible. I hope so. Hopefully we'll keep the lid on the COVID thing for a while and get everybody out. I think people are just anxious to get back out. I've had a lot of people tell me it's their favorite kind of outdoor event of the year. And I think people missed it last year, and I think they're really looking forward to it.
Well, I think you got a good team going. Just like we had that Bath Conservation Club event, like I mentioned to you, we had that last Sunday, the 22nd. And if we would not have did, because we normally do that in March of the year, we were 29 months to doing it till August. And if we would not have done it in August and waited until doing it next month, it would have been 3 years before you got back to it. And that's what you're seeing. I think yours is only 2, granted. But still, I think you're seeing people that didn't want to be 2 years without it. And that makes a big, big difference. People don't want to go 2 years without doing something that they're used to doing every year. So I think that's going to play a little bit into the mix on the good side for you, too. Have a safe trip, my friend. Enjoy that fly fishing trip. I look forward to seeing you at the event. And then let me know who for the 9th, and just tell them we'll get them right about. I know we already started on time, right on time, but tell them right about 8:40, 8:45. I'll give them a call the Tuesday prior anyway. Okay?
Okay. It will probably be who we were just talking about, Andy Knowles, but I'll let you know for sure. And Sydney and Jerry, our organization and all of our members really appreciate the support you give us every year. We really do.
Thank you.
Couldn't have it without you, my friend. We wouldn't. The year wouldn't turn out quite the same without having you Dayton mentioned. That's for sure. Thanks, John. Look forward to seeing you 14th. So.
Okay, Jerry. Thank you. See you, Sydney.
Take care.
Take care. There you go, John Strawsburg. DU Dayton, right around the corner, coming up on the 14th of September, and Sydney a little bit. What do you think? We're running a long one tonight for people. Maybe I hope they enjoy it.
Yeah, I think they do. I seen some comments the other day. I was kind of, I was getting intrigued by that.
Good. Hope it's good comments.
Yeah, they asked about Lake Mead, though. They said why we haven't mentioned Lake Mead and how the water's disappearing in Lake Mead. And I thought, well, maybe we should start having phone callers call in since they have so many questions.
Well, I enjoy phone calls. I think that's something we can definitely entertain. Sure, we can do that.
I tell them next time they listen, just call in and ask that question, because now you got me curious about Lake Mead.
Well, Lake Mead supplies a lot of water for the folks out west, and what they're probably concerned about Lake Mead is the fact that it is so low right now, and that's probably what they're concerned about. You can look at a picture of Lake Mead, you can see, they call it the bathtub line, and that is the water line, where you see how high the water's been and where the level of the water is now, and it shocks people when they see that. So that's probably the question. And the reason why it is what it is, it's been so dry out west. That's the reason why it's the way it is. So,
but they did say they love every show, is what the comments said. So apparently we have some people out there listening to every show. I didn't know that.
Well, that's good. That's because we got a good producer. If we have a good show, we have a good producer, and that would be Mr. Sidney.
Well, I appreciate
and he's also pretty good with a little bit of sports and a little bit of weather, and football times are coming for regular season NFL, isn't it?
Absolutely, and there's a lot of COVID concerns as we speak on that. Yes. And then getting into, that was a nice toe into sports there. Weather-wise, if you're in Nairobi, 59, Frankfurt, 55, Guatemala City, 73, New Orleans, 85, New York, 85 degrees as well, Havana, 82 degrees, Helsinki, 54 degrees, that's the coldest I've seen so far, Paris, France, 57 degrees, Hong Kong, 84, Anchorage, Alaska, 63 degrees. I never thought we'd be warmer than Alaska. Istanbul, 77. Bangkok, 78. Salt Lake City, 87 degrees. And then if you're in Berlin, 93. Dallas, 95 degrees. Mexico City, 70 degrees. Vancouver, 61, Tokyo 88, Toronto 79 degrees. Now getting into some sports. Right now the New England Patriots have benched their starter momentarily because of COVID concerns that they believe he may have knew about. And they're starting the rookie for at least this week. So that's going to give him some reps. And they said he's been doing very well during practice, and the team is encouraging him a lot. Also getting into baseball. If you're watching baseball, or if you're just not really watching but interested, I should say, Diamondbacks 4, Phillies 2, top of the 6th. Cardinals 7, Pirates 3, top of the 7. The Rangers 4, the Indians 6, top of the 6. The Nationals 2, the Marlins 7, top of the 6. Top of the 8th is where the Giants are at right now, and it's tied with the Mets 2-2. And then you get to the Cincinnati Reds. They won 5-1 today. The White Sox won 10-7 against the Blue Jays today. And the Orioles just completely demolished the Angels 13-1 today. And now I would like to touch base on not just sports. Sometimes we kind of jump around. I heard Mr. Cripp bring up something that kind of got my attention, so I like to touch on that. We have some issues going on overseas where at the Kabul airport there were attacks. 60 Afghanistan attacked U.S. troops. Getting into that, 2 suicide bombers and gunmen attacked crowds of Afghans flocking to Kabul airport Thursday, transforming the scene of desperation into one of horror in the last days. And they were fleeing from the Taliban takeover, actually. At least 60 Afghanistans and 12 U.S. troops were killed in this assault and onslaught. U.S. officials said 11 Marines and 1 Navy medic were among those who were deceased. May their families understand what is going on and know that they gave their life for freedom. Not just ours, but around the world. And it does bother me. And for that, sadly, we pass it back to you, Mr. Jury, but more than 140 Afghans were wounded during this situation. And one of the bombers was struck standing knee-deep in wastewater in a canal under the sweltering sun, throwing bodies into a field of water, unfortunately. I got more details on this if you go onto a website. I don't want to throw all my sources out there like that, but just you can keyword it on any Google or any Bing or any form of website. But I just like to take at least 10 seconds of silence for them, because that was pretty sad. One of my best friends is a Marine, so I know he pretty much is going to tell me about this later. And back to you. This is Sidney Davis reporting for Fishing and Hunting Sports. And you guys, we don't just always talk about sports and hunting. There's other things that sometimes we need to bring your attention to. And with Jerry's help, I will continue to do that. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate your updates, and no question about that sad situation in Afghanistan. And like I said earlier, could have all been avoided. I'd sad to say there's going to be many more days like this to come before it's said and done. That's what's going on with Afghanistan. So thoughts and prayers for everybody involved in that disaster over there, that's for sure. And to lose 13 service people again, for really, it's just a shame. I guess is the best thing we can say. Keep them all in your thoughts and prayers, that's for sure. We'll be out next Thursday during the dove season opener, but we'll be back on the 9th of September. Kip Brown will be with us on the 9th, by the way. He'll give us really up to speed what's going to be happening with fall fishing here in Southwest Ohio. And there's some pretty neat things going on with fall fishing. We'll have with him. That'll be on the 9th, and then we'll have that dove wrapped up for the first few days with Brian Dorsey. He'll give us that on the 9th, too. But be out there enjoying a little bit of dove hunting next week. Sydney, good show as always. Hey, everybody out there, get out and enjoy the outdoors. Whether if you're hunting, great. If you're fishing, great. Even if it's just out for an enjoyable walk, get out and enjoy it. I guarantee you, you'll love it, that's for sure. We'll see you next time right here on Fishing and Hunting Today. So long.